Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's May 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And we've just real quickly before we get started on the chart lesson, I am back from a vacation. Um, I need a day or so. I'll be caught up probably by tomorrow. So wasn't gone long enough to get really far behind this time like last time. But I will say we had an issue with the website for the last couple of days that I wasn't aware of until I came into the office this morning. So if you had trouble getting onto the website or logging into the premium membership, that's been corrected. There was an update on, I believe it was Sunday evening, and that somehow that update created a bug that where some people couldn't log in, and none of our, if you tried to join the membership or purchase a manual or anything, you weren't able to. But we've corrected that. I corrected that first thing this morning. It was a pretty simple fix once we figured out what it was. But it was just a bug from an update. So I apologize for that. We got that corrected. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up if you were having problems logging in or whatever. That shouldn't be a problem now. And if you do have any problems, please drop me an email and let me know, and we'll take another look at it. But as far as I can see, everything's working properly now. Let's get to the chart lesson. Here's our daily chart, and you can see it looks like we're just right back in this tight range again, this congestion area again. We traded way below that today, but you can see we bounced and closed back inside that. And again, most of that bounce came after 2:30 when the volume's real low, and so they continue to prop this thing up, in my opinion. And I think we'll continue to see something similar to this all the way into the election time. So we might see another correction here, but I don't think it's going to be much of one at all. But we do have a break of both the gray and the green channel here, and a new high in place. And it looked like we were finally going to sell off, but they keep buying it back whenever those, and the volume's low overall, period. But after 2:30 in the afternoon, it gets really low, and every day it seems like when there's a sell-off, some buying comes back in at the last minute and drives it back up. And they pretty much did that today. Didn't drive it back to a new high, but that's a lot of buying to drive that back up like that. So the market continues to be kind of in an upward. I would say the buy still continues to be sideways to up at this point, and could be changing. It takes a little longer to figure it out in the daily chart because one bar is only equal to an entire day, so it takes 4 or 5 days sometimes before you know what prices are really doing. So it's much harder to decipher in the near term versus a 2,000 tick chart or a 5-minute chart or whatever. So anyway, there it is. Let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart, and what you'll see is just a range day that prices recovered from and closed back in the upper half of the channel. So, or not channel, I'm sorry, range. But let's flip over there and take a look, and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. Okay, here it is, and you can see early on I had this a little higher. I had the lows right across here, and this appeared to be a lower tier. But after, by noontime, it was obvious this was one big range, and this was just a midline here. And notice when we did break lower and we dropped down, we found a little support there and pushed on through. But notice how we pushed on this side out about an equal amount that we did on the upside. And sometimes you'll see that because the market market geometry is real. I don't care what anybody tells you. We get these measured moves and things a lot, and we show you to the tick a lot of times how measured moves work. But anyway, we traded down strongly, broke out the low side, reversed, and of course they traded it all the way up and almost took it all back again, and then sold off just a little bit into the close. And so we ended up for the day compared to the previous trading day, but not by much. So what I would say is we just closed back in the range at the lower half of this original range up here. So most of this was just sideways stuff until we had a little trend down, and then of course we had a pretty nice trend up. The biggest, strongest part of it came after 2:30 when we don't normally take trades anyway. So limited trades today, but we'll work through them and go through this entire chart real quickly. Okay, let me zoom in here where we can see it a little better. And we had this trend up, then we had one down, and we got a break here. It took a little work before we made a new low, and then we end up just kind of chopping sideways here. So we got a early on during our trading period, we just got a tight range. And the way you play that is you buy the lows and you sell the highs. You can clearly see there's two legs down here. By this time you get a triple test. I like going long there. Then you get a higher low with a 2-bar matching low. Another nice signal bar. I like that one. We turn back down here. This is too much in the middle. This one's too close to the lows. And then this is just congestion here. And we come back. I like this one. It's a triple test. This needs to be a little bit lower here. Well, I don't know what's going on with my mouse again there. It's the craziest thing. It was working fine until I get ready to do the video, and now it's acting up again. But anyway, I marked this one green. It made a little higher high than these last few. It's not higher than this one, but it is higher than both this one and this one. So I marked this one green. I like it in real time, but I think that since we didn't get to the lows here, it makes a higher high. You got to be careful with it. I do believe we're just making a high on this retest here. You got a strong channel up, two-legged correction, then you make another leg up, and so it's most likely going to turn down here, and it does. Then it comes back and it tests this again and gives you a bearish bar, and this is actually a second entry short, even though we're not counting second entries here. It's just another turn down right inside, bearish bar right inside the range here. There's plenty of room. I like going short there. And of course we got this one working out. This one is very tempting. But you can see that channel's still in play. And it does get a break in a new low before it tries to go higher. And it tries to go higher a few times. I didn't mark this trade because it's just too congested here and you don't have much room to the low. So even though that's a lower high, I think you got to skip that one. And that turns out to be a nice move down, and then we're just kind of chopping sideways. There's nothing you can really take there. And then it turns down right off the key entry point again, and you get a little failed breakout down here. I didn't mark this trade because there's not much room back to all that resistance right there. It's a good bit away from the EMA, which we know it'll probably snap back, but the main issue is this is during the news item. There was a 9 a.m. news item, and so you wouldn't want to take a trade in there. You want to be flat 5 or 10 minutes going into that, and then you want to wait for prices to settle down. It was pretty quick before they settled down. You might have waited just a few more minutes to make sure that this is a range here or congestion or whatever before you decide to start trading. And then we're just chopping sideways. You get a little pull back here. That's the first time back inside these lows here. And so I don't think you can go long there. Actually, I think this is just a tad lower, like right there. And then we get another test of it here, but it makes a slightly lower low, and it's just a double test. You need at least a triple test, which doesn't come to low here, and then you don't really get a setup there. I did like this. You got a leg up, break, new low. I didn't draw the leg up. And I would call this one just a failed break out of the range there. And I didn't mark this one either because it makes a new high. I think you got to wait for the lower high, which comes here after 2 legs up. And this is just like 4 ticks. I knew it was 3 or 4. Couldn't remember which. But I like that one. And that's a nice move down. And, of course, now you get a triple test here, but you don't get a setup. There's no setup there. And you can see it does take off pretty strongly. And you get a close outside, new high. And again, you don't get a setup to go short. And this is a good example of why you don't go short down here at the very lows, because you see what happened. It pushes lower temporarily and snaps right back. And so you got to be careful with those. But you get a trend up, close outside, a couple of swings up to a new high. But unfortunately, again, no decent signal bar. And this thing just kind of sets a trend here and keeps going. This one was really tempting. It is a break outside of some congestion here. I didn't mark it. You can see that congestion. So you could switch over to range rules here, and that is a failed breakout, but it closes outside. If it would have closed maybe inside, plus it looks like we've got a channel working up. So I just think you have to skip that. It is a double top somewhat. You might even, let me just draw it. You might even argue there's a triple test there. And you could see that 1, 2, 3, but this makes a lower high than this, and then this makes a higher high, so it's not ideal. But again, you could call it a failed breakout. If it breaks lower, it's probably going to at least come back down here and test the trend line. And you can see there's just is 1.5 ticks there, 6 ticks there. What you need, 1.5 points. Is what I should have said, but I'm just not crazy about that. I think you got to wait. And of course, now you get your break outside your trend line. It runs back, makes a new high, and turns down. If this would have broke higher and failed and turned down, I might like that on the engulfing bar, but I think when it closes here, it's too close back, and you could get another leg up. You do end up getting another leg up, but you've got this channel working down, and you finally get a close and new low. It doesn't happen till here. And then, of course, it does rally up. You get a close outside, move to a new high, and you get a fairly bearish bar here that you could call a double top. It's a little ways away from the EMA. It's not ideal because you could say, hey, that looks a little congested, but it is a close outside and a new high. Maybe you take it. Better off to wait on a lower high, and that comes right here with a big bearish bar. I marked this in red. I don't know that you could get in it because it kind of gaps there and keeps going. You would have had to try a limit order most likely. Would you have gotten filled? I just don't know. Maybe it depends on how you played it, how quick you were. And that should be red right there. Blue. But this is definitely a reversal. It broke higher and turned down. When it goes past that big bullish bar, I like that on the engulfing one. You may wait till it closes, but it turns out to be a pretty big bar. There's still plenty of room to the lows. So I still think, even though it's 15 ticks and rather large, you could still go short there. I think the ideal way to play that one's on the engulfing bar. And that's a little more advanced. Most of you probably should leave the engulfing bars alone until you get really experienced reading the chart. But that's definitely a classic reversal trap because it breaks higher above that bullish bar and then instantly turns down and goes right out the other side. You usually got them trapped on that, and it's usually going to be a good move back to a measured move or back to the other side of a range or whatever. And you can see we went right back to the other side of the range and then bounced. I didn't like entering here. We do have a break and a couple of swings to a new low, but this looks a little congested. It's definitely prices have bounced there a few times. There's still some room back. I mean, I guess I should have probably at least made that green. And you can't trade that one on the engulfing bar because this bar has no body really. So you got to wait for this to close. And there's still plenty of room back to the upper side. And of course we bounce up here a few times and turn down, but there's no setups. And then we bounce early here, so you really can't enter there. And then I don't think this one's bearish enough to go short. And you get 2 legs down and you actually get a close outside here. I didn't show this. But you can see about where a measured move would have gone to. And we went a little further than that. This support was a little bit lower than that. We do get a triple test here with a nice signal bar. It did not break above there, so that worries me a little bit because there's not a lot of room back to the highs here. So I think this one's a little risky, and that's the reason I marked it green. I'd probably sit on it and just wait. And of course, we turn up and then instantly turn back down, but I don't see a setup here all the way down. There's just not a very good setup. By the time we get here, this is looking like a really strong trend. So maybe, you know, we always talk about every signal bar you could probably enter on it. You might even enter this one. It's kind of hard. I mean, it's looking like it's starting to get really bearish, but by the time you get here, and the problem here is you don't have much room to the measured move. It ends up not mattering, but you don't know that in advance. So I think that one's a little risky as well. Originally, I didn't mark either one of them, but there are some reasons to consider them. Of course, you do get a close outside and a couple swings down and it bounces. Don't try to pick a bottom down here. You get a first entry. There's actually a second entry short right there, but this is played out, and so I think you have to skip the second entry short and look for a possible second entry long or a higher low, and we actually get both. You get a second entry long here, then you get a higher low, but there's no setup to trade either one of those, so you just have to kind of skip those. And you run up real quickly, and then you're just working sideways. But we do get a 1, 2, 3 triple test right at the key entry point. I marked this one green. The only reason, this bar is pretty bullish. It's right off the key entry point. It's a triple test. The problem is this is your signal bar because it makes the swing low. But you can see we did trade back up even where this one opens. So there's some reasons to still like this trade because you got your support for it's really a range is what it is. I didn't mark the whole range, but we can put it on there just so people can see it. And so maybe you take that trade. I just left it green because it's getting late in the day and it's not perfect, but I think there's reasons to take that. Then we bounce here and get a higher low. Again, I marked it green. It's right off the key entry point, right off the EMA. It is kind of a little breakout pullback. This was a strong move up, so the odds are we're going to succeed on the way up. And so maybe you take that trade. I marked it green. It's not perfect, so but there's enough support there to consider. You've got the range, the EMA, and the trend line all at your back working together, so you got confluence there, and you can see it rocketed up pretty quick and then turns back down, and that took us into 230, so I didn't see anything else there I liked. But yeah, we recovered the majority of today's sell-off, and just kind of turns out to be a big range day. There was a couple of legs down here, but in the big picture, this is just sideways stuff, and we kind of closed just slightly up is the way I would describe it. So not the best trading day, not the worst trading day either, but it's pretty typical after a extended holiday weekend, especially in the summer when the kids are out of school. A lot of people take this Memorial Day, they take the whole week, they take their kids on vacation or whatever, go to the beach, go do whatever people do on vacation. So not surprising that maybe it's going to be a little slow for a few days, and it's going to be slow during the summer maybe. We'll just have to see what happens. But anyway, not much else we can talk about today, so I'm going to wrap this one up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.